Hello, everyone. I'm Ian Heller with Distribution Strategy Group, and this is the latest in our best practice series of webinars called Cybersecurity in the Age of AI. In a few minutes, I'll bring in Alex Spiegel from Choice Cyber Solutions, who will do the content today for our webinar. But first, going to do just a little bit of business, but you should find this business interesting. First of all, I want to tell you about a new subscription analytics product we have called DemandRx. If you want to know the potential of your products by category in geographic areas like zip codes, counties, MSAs, et cetera, we can tell you better than anybody else can. Our software not only estimates by the account level, it aggregates so that you can do wallet share and market share. It's an unbelievable product, and it's got maps where you can dial in, and it's got ways of sorting the information and even porting the information into major CRMs so your sales reps can use it to make better sales calls every day. It's a terrific tool. It doesn't cost very much money. Please reach out to us at Distribution Strategy Group. Jonathan Bein, who's the genius who invented it, is reachable at JBEIN. That's jbein at distributionstrategy.com. Give him a shout, and we'll show you what it's about. Also, I'm so excited that we're doing another conference called Applied AI for Distributors. This one is June 4th through 6th at the Chicago Marriott O'Hare. We have a fantastic lineup. In fact, we just announced that Teresa Payton, who's the former White House CIO, is going to be there to speak on cybersecurity. So this is a big, important theme for us. We'll also have Zach Cass is doing a brand new keynote from the one he did last year. He's the former head of go-to-market for OpenAI, the ChatGPT people. We have a stellar lineup otherwise. You can see it on screen. Please shoot the QR code to get more information and to register. And by the way, we have a pre-show workshop that we're doing that's 2.5 hours long about how to use AI as a professional salesperson. You don't have to go to the rest of the event to do that workshop. It's really going to be useful to anyone who's a professional in sales. It's led by Paul Beyer, who's one of the world's leading experts when it comes to applying AI to the sales process. And early bird pricing for this whole shooting match ends on April 15th. So you've only got a couple of weeks. So make sure you register soon so you can save a little money, and we'll see you in Chicago. Okay, now I'd like to bring in a good friend of the Distribution Strategy Group, Sandy Leon at Epicor. Sandy, how are you today?
I am great. And thanks so much. We're happy to be a sponsor today. I'm just going to say a few things about Epicor. We say that we are here for the hardworking businesses that make, move, and sell. And when it comes to the move part, we've actually been in the distribution industry with ERPs for over 50 years. We know your world, we understand your challenges, and we can help you solve them. In fact, when we ask new customers why they chose Epicor, the thing that we hear most often is that we get them, and our software is the best fit for what they do right out of the box. Next page. We recently surveyed distributors to find out what they consider their biggest challenges are. Cybersecurity rose to the top as the #1 challenge keeping them up at night. This is something we take very seriously. It's part of our DNA. Our ERPs are created to help you protect your business from cyber threats and to detect and prevent modern threats like ransomware. Our security team becomes part of your security team. If you're looking for a new ERP, one that includes technology that's going to help you ensure new threats are detected and deterred, we'd love to talk. Feel free to reach out to me at my email address.
Yeah, so that's sandy.leon. It's sandy.lien at epicor.com. Sandy, there is no distributor considering a new ERP that should not have Epicor in the consideration set. I mean, it's just one of it's a must consider as part of the process.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again for sponsoring this, and I know you're sponsoring our conference as well. So we'll see the Epicor folks in Chicago too. So thanks very much.
Great. Thank you.
You bet. All right, so now let's bring in the star of the show, who's going to talk about cybersecurity in the age of AI. I'm delighted to welcome to her first webinar ever with us, Alex Spiegel. Alex is the co-founder and COO of Choice Cyber Solutions. You guys have been around about what, 7 years now, and the areas, your practice areas, I know, include security and compliance, operational efficiency, policies, procedures, and audit management and compliance management, right?
Yes, we've been around now for 8 years as of this week.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, wow. Okay, so it's your 8-year anniversary as a company. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's right. I'm a year behind, so it's 8 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, well, I'll turn it over to you. You can take it from here, and then I'll come back on right at the end with the closing slide, Alex.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. So Choice Cyber Solutions is an outsourced compliance, privacy, and cybersecurity services company. So I spend my day in cybersecurity and AI. We focus on independent risk assessments and provide, one-stop shop for over 20 compliances now. So let's jump into it. So the current state of cybersecurity, in 2024, there are so many security concerns, right? So as Sandy was just saying, cybersecurity is what's keeping a lot of distributors up at night, and I can absolutely understand why. 53% of organizations are at the early stages and early adoptions of AI today. And that's 45% of these organizations have experienced one or more cyber attacks in the last year. We're seeing ransomware, malware, phishing attacks, social engineering, like crypto mining, cloud software applications. Since the pandemic, there's been an 81% increase in cyber attacks. That is no surprise, right? The problem here is technology sprawl and data sprawl. So we're seeing, it's getting harder to protect. There's an explosive number of IPs and connected to these networks. There's workstations and mobile devices and people working from home. There's cloud applications, on-premise applications. So these increased number of devices, plus the Internet of Things and mobiles and wearable devices, just really increase the usage, especially around the cloud, and we have to, adapt our resources to adhere to these, especially when it comes to sensitive and personal data. And the office and the workflow has just changed in the last couple of years. So external threats are on a rise. 80% of attacks are from an external threat. That means 20% are still insiders. Insider threat is still a huge concern here. But we really have to understand the risk. We need a structure. It's getting more complicated to manage all of this and harder to protect. So it's critical that we have a structure around cybersecurity. So the average cost of a data breach in 2023 globally was $4.45 million or more. That's a 15% increase over the last 3 years. And AI is helping organizations save, but on average, that's closer to 1 to 2 million, exactly 1.76 million, compared to organizations that don't. So not protecting yourself and using AI could still potentially cost you millions of dollars.
And you've got the reputational damage that you mentioned in the bottom right part of your graphic too, right, Alex? Because we just switched from Verizon to AT&T, and AT&T just announced that they had a breach and like 75 million customer records got out. My wife and I are like, wow, I wish we'd never changed.
Yeah. Reputation damage is huge. Attorney's fees can rack up very fast with lawsuits and potential fines, and you potentially have to notify all of your clients if there is in fact a breach. So this could be a shutdown to a lot of companies.
Sure.
And loss of revenue. So the current breaches that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis is ransomware, phishing, malware, wire fraud, and password attacks. These are things that are most likely to happen to you or users within your specific company, especially wire frauds and transfers. We're seeing a lot of password attacks, even with two-factor authentication, and that's a huge problem. There's a ton of wire transfers being done, and we're seeing, for example, I had a client that had an incident a couple of weeks ago where their email was compromised via a phishing attack. and was used to send a $230,000 invoice to their customer via an email address with an identical invoice to what they're used to seeing. So their customer paid the invoice via wire, and it's hard to determine who's at fault in this situation, right? Now there's lawyers, forensics, cyber insurance claims, and the list goes on. So many people are involved at this point, and it's been weeks and weeks of work and cleanup. You know, if they would have had a cybersecurity structure in place to begin with, this potentially would not have been a problem.
Yeah, and I've seen this happen a couple times in small companies, including ones I've been a part of. And it's like some of it is, software and technology, but some of it is just having good practices around reminding your customers that you're never going to change your ACH instructions. And if they ever get a request, they should call this phone number, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some of it is just better process and awareness. Am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And, educating your users, educating your customers on what those processes are and look like, so there's no question marks to anyone at any time. So here's just a list of common AI definitions. Artificial intelligence is just a system based on machine capabilities. I'm sure everyone here, has read about AI and uses AI in their daily life already. So it can make predictions, recommendations, or decisions affecting real or virtual environments. It's definitely an emerging technology and has the world intrigued and watching its process. It's growing faster than any other technology we've ever seen. So you'll see me talk about, a couple of these things today: generative AI, large language model, AI red team. So that's testing initiatives aimed at identifying flaws and vulnerabilities. It's in a controlled environment typically, and with AI development and developers on average. AI model, watermarking. So that's like incorporating information intentionally. So to eliminate outputs generated by AI. So these are photos, videos, audio clips, text, aimed at confirming the authenticity of the actual user. And synthetic content. So that's just images, videos, audio clips, text that's been altered or created through AI. So you'll just see these throughout this presentation. So these are the types of AI that we see every day. So AI is used in our everyday life. Siri answering our constant questions, Alexa controlling the technology in our homes. Our banking systems utilize AI in the security of our transactions to detect fraud. If you deposit a check through a mobile phone, that is AI. If you go get an alert, a fraud alert, a low balance alert, even when you're trying to log into your online banking, AI is behind the scenes. All Face ID, opening your phone, logging into your bank, that's all AI. Social media personalization based on your user history. So, what you're seeing in your feeds and filtering for things like fake news and preventing cyberbullying. Similar technology like this is used to show you Amazon recommendations or pops up on your Netflix on what to watch next. It's in every aspect of our life. Especially at work, you're seeing a lot of email or messaging AI. I use Grammarly to help me, draft error-free messages. Spam filtering technology uses AI to block malicious emails. Google searches use AI, and they have for such a long time. And then, of course, we're seeing more ChatGPT and social media content and different things coming from avenues of that nature. The most popular use in AI in business is to personalize the customer experience, which makes sense, right? We want to make them feel special. So reactive machines are really the oldest form of AI systems. They have really limited capabilities. They emulate the human's mind and the ability to respond to different kinds of stimuli. They don't really have memory-based functionality. Limited memory is machines that have the capabilities of purely reactive machines. They're capable of learning from historical data to make decisions, Basically all applications existing that we know of today fall under this category of AI in some way, shape, or form. Theory of mind AI is really like a next level AI system. So researchers are currently engaged in innovating this area. So this is able to like better understand the entities that it's interacting with, really, touching their needs and emotions and beliefs and thought processes. Self-aware is currently really only exists like hypothetically. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's like AI that's evolved to be, like a human brain and developed self-awareness, or this isn't like a futuristic movie. It doesn't really exist in application today. Artificial narrow intelligence. So this really represents a lot of the existing AI as well, including the most like complicated and capable AI that's ever been created to date. It really refers to like AI systems that only perform on specific task autonomy using human-like capabilities. And then the artificial general intelligence. So this is it's going to become the most capable forms of AI on Earth, probably. But it really is the ability for the AI agent to learn, perceive, understand, and function like a human being. So that's just what you can, understand of the types. And they really take these types and put it into 3 structures. So that's where I kind of want to focus. Supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. So when we're talking about types of AI structures, we want to think, supervised is that spam filter. It's image recognition systems. It can recognize face patterns. It's AI that is supervised to look at things a certain way. It is very structured. The real main difference between supervised and unsupervised learning is labeled data. So supervised learning uses labeled input and output data, and it's a training set to teach models to yield the desired output. So this really focuses on, taking input, so specific data, and producing correct outputs, which allow it to really learn over time. And it measures its accuracy through loss function. So it adjusts to error based on specific functionality and whether or not it's producing accurate data.
So the labeling's coming from humans, and they're also evaluating the output to score it.
Yeah, and like once you teach it, it can label things automatically, potentially. But yeah, we're talking things like spam detection, image and object recognition, so recognizing face patterns like Face ID, predictive analysis, customer sentiment analysis. Unsupervised AI is really looking for that thing that's missing. So like security incident event monitoring, a SIM technology in my world, looks for abnormal behavior. So things that are completely out of the norm, like a brute force attack, or a bank calling because of a fraud alert, or a credit card, that fraud alert because the credit card's been used in France and the US in the same day. Those are kinds of examples there. So it's really using algorithms and cluster unlabeled data sets. So it uncovers like hidden patterns and groupings without much need for human intervention. So reinforcement is the autonomous driving. It keeps learning and directing along the way. It's going to be really woven into your personal life and your business life. So examples of this are predictive text, question answering, machine translation. So that is definitely the number one to look out for. So most importantly, what are AI breaches to come? What should we be looking out for? How does this affect your business? And what are your real threats out there? So the AI problems that we are really seeing, that AI is really starting to kick in. So it's the same pattern between, cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. These AI attacks, pose a huge threat to physical safety, privacy concerns, digital identity safety, national security, making it crucial for organizations to really identify all the types of AI attacks and then take measures to safeguard and protect against them. So, including AI breaches and how to handle them, and your incident response, business continuity, and disaster recovery planning. They're as we're moving to the cloud, working from home in COVID, we're going to see the true effects here of AI to come. And everyone is incorporating AI into their business. So there's definitely going to be a backlash and a ripple effect. So you want to start looking out for these 5 types of breaches. So a deep fake is used to create convincing images, audio, video hoaxes. This is targeted around misinformation or deception. So examples here are your average social engineering, your basic phishing attacks, or fake news. There's a lot of concern here with political manipulation, and that this type of AI will interfere with the upcoming elections. The problem with deepfakes is that while they pose a serious threat, they have legitimate business uses. So they're used for customer support and caller response applications, call forwarding, receptionist services. So it's harder to protect against some things when we're using them every day in our business.
Let me give you a use case in distribution, though, that we're going to see if we haven't already, Alex, which is, distributors still take a lot of phone calls for orders, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine a customer service person that's, say, an electrical distributor, and they get a call and a caller ID comes up and it's correct. It's a voice of a person they've talked to 25, 30 times before, who says, hey, I'm on a job site. I need this stuff right away. They rattle off a list of $100,000 worth of stuff. The customer service person enters the order, ships it out, and it goes to a destination where it's stolen and gone forever. And that distributors are totally vulnerable to that kind of thing if they don't take steps to protect against it. And the bad people are going to figure this out pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So poisoning takes that to the next level. So it can really learn from past behavior to do the exact same thing again because it worked the first time. So that's where you're talking about leading to loss of reputation and capital, because it learns from the data that it's fed. So it aims to malicious motivations. So examples here are like altering a stop sign so that a self-driving car reads it as a speed limit sign, or they typically occur earlier in the AI development life cycle. So, or just learning from a simple phone call like that and continuing to do them because it looks like a duck, it acts like a duck, so maybe it's a duck. So interference can result in the leakage of sensitive data. So here we're concerned about the personal identifiable information, or the PII, within an organization. So names, addresses, birth dates, social security numbers, health records, those kinds of things. The aim of these attacks is to really seek information and probe the machine learning model with different input data and weighing the output. So they want to gain knowledge about the original subject or the entire database. So an example here is really sophisticated phishing and social engineering, like the example that I used earlier. So using phishing to gain access to someone's systems to create a replica invoice that looks like it comes from the right email address is a really good example of that. Evasion can cause physical safety and harm. So the goal here for them is to evade the AI's model performance. So that an example there is like a self-driving car relying on automated images, recognition of traffic signals, and being fooled by someone who's tampered with the traffic signs. So that's a really scary one in our everyday life. Extraction can lead to insider threats or cyber criminals. So their aim here is to probe the machine learning system to reconstruct the model or extract the data that it was trained on. So an example here is an automated capture of invoice data from outbound invoices. So that client example of being paid by their client, it was made to look identical to this company's typical invoice. So using AI through extraction. In this case, it was not AI, but it can definitely be used to do that. So we talked a lot about the risk to your business. And, we got a great example of, what that could look like in your business. I was actually going to use that example here, especially around, copper wire. I know that that's a commonly stolen product in this
Sorry,
industry.
Alex. Sorry, Alex. I stole your example.
I'm so glad you did. So as a distributor, you have a lot of customers and no one wants to be the on-ramp for a breach. You have a very unique situation because you have a lot of information that you have to capture from your customers. So there's potential sensitive information and, you have your customers' information. So, you're pulling out information for lots of people at one time. So, this could lead to potential lawsuits like we were talking about earlier. But the business risk to any business is always going to be your people. They need really clear, repeatable, standardized AI usage, evaluation, and testing and training. You really need to define how you're allowed to use AI, what is acceptable versus what is not. So my team is never allowed to use AI for any client-related content or data. They are never allowed to upload anything sensitive or proprietary into any AI tool. Honestly, we primarily only utilize it for marketing and social media at this point because I'm biased. This is what I do for a living, so I'm clearly extra cautious when it comes to cybersecurity. But making sure that you're labeling to tell what content is generated by AI, just in case you ever need to know, and having post-deployment monitoring because data changes and things evolve. So companies investing or utilizing AI products in any way really need to invest in cybersecurity measures to counter these attacks. And it's just critical to ensure trust and reliability. So these are just some examples, but I don't want to keep you up all night. So I will keep going.
So hold on just a second though, because you don't allow people in your company to use to upload confidential stuff in ChatGPT, right?
Correct.
And so for companies to do that, like if I have a financial analyst who says, well, I'm going to get some help doing the understanding these customers or these competitive trends, if they enter that into ChatGPT, are they literally adding it to that data, to the training data for ChatGPT?
Yes. So there's two types of ChatGPT. Like there's the external facing, and yes,
Right.
we're helping it grow and learn by anything you put into it. And then you can also host like a closed version on your systems, like on your own server. So that's where, it's could be more secure, but
Yeah.
you never really know. So my suggestions here are always to never use your actual customer data when you're doing it, right? You can still gain the resources that you need potentially without using their name or their specific sensitive information. So always trying to do it that way.
Wow.
And just making sure that there's rules around it, right? So like any technology that doesn't have rules is going to end up with, malicious behavior, whether it's intentional or unintentional. So that's where a real structure and a plan really come into play.
Wow.
So who's going to oversee AI? So the National Institute of Standard and Technology, NIST, is working on establishing standards for conducting pre-deployment red team testing on AI models. So this is really for developers, but we're going to see more and more regulation very soon. It's currently not very regulated, which means that it's unstructured. So anywhere where there's unstructure in cybersecurity, there is a significant increase in cyber threats and attacks. So we really need to put a structure around AI, and eventually the government will catch up like they always do, but it's important right now to just be proactive in what's to come. So the Office of Management and Budget is going to be involved in the formation of policies and frameworks to oversee the utilization of AI. The Department of Commerce is tasked with establishing standards for watermarking, like we talked about earlier. The Attorney General will initiate actions to address algorithmic discrimination and implement measures for mitigation. And then there's an executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy AI so that you know what you can trust and what you can't. And then there are publicly available reports outlining potential of AI to enhance, public infrastructure and address significant changes.
So Alex, I'm sorry, but don't worry. The government's got this is not reassuring.
Um,
I know you don't mean it that way. I'm just saying that I don't think they can keep up with the how fast the technology is evolving.
yeah, I think I was misunderstood because that is not the case at all.
I know. I was
They
I
will
was making a joke, right?
eventually
Right.
catch up, but then they'll
Yeah.
still be behind because technology will change by
Yeah.
the time they
Right.
get there.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
best way to do it is really to just weave AI into your existing cybersecurity practices
Right.
and making sure that you have those cybersecurity practices in place to weave that AI into.
Right.
You need a plan, right? We need a strategy. So it needs to be a comprehensive plan. This cannot be fixed with an AI policy alone. There are a lot of companies asking for us to do this, but they don't even have a basic framework in place. So they'll come to us and be like, "Hey, I need to protect my AI," but they don't have a NIST 800-171 or a CSF or an ISO 27001, no cybersecurity best practices framework in place. So, it's better when we can build an AI game plan and weave it into what we're already doing to protect against the cybersecurity threats and breaches. You really can't build a foundation for AI on the 25th floor, right? You need to build your security in layers. So it's really important to have your security ducks in a row. So if something happens, you want to be able to prove that you have a compliance in place, that you have a structure around cybersecurity. And to say, hey, I'm NIST or ISO certified, I have a SOC 2 certification. You want to show that you have some kind of structure, and then you want to incorporate AI and its usage into that structure. So whether it's supervised or unsupervised, really just discovering the potential risks and making sure that that's part of your business continuity, disaster recovery, instant response planning, that you're protected from a vendor management perspective, that you are training your employees and your customers, that you have all of the right policies and procedures in place. You have cyber liability insurance that actually covers in the event of a cyber attack. We're seeing so many clients come to us where, the social engineering portion of their cyber insurance says nil, like they don't cover anything related. So making sure you're covered for what you actually need to be covered for, and that your technology supports you and your initiatives and protects you. So in my world, my number one goal is to help my clients build a culture of compliance and security. So that's taking the people, the technology, the compliance, and the workflow and building it together to make you more efficient, to make you more secure, and have that strategy, that plan, and that culture all together. I always like to take a minute to explain the difference between security and compliance in my worlds, because a lot of times they're very much intermingled. So security is the state of being free from a danger or a threat. So in the state of Maryland, you're only required to wear a helmet to ride a motorcycle. And if you're not wearing one, you'll receive a ticket. So compliance is that minimum requirement needed to be fined or to lose a contract. So wearing that helmet. Right? All the other protective gear, the leather jacket, the steel tip boots, the riding gloves, those are what keep you safe in case of an accident. That's compliance. I'm sorry, that's security. So compliance is that minimum and security is that additional, right? If you were to, heaven forbid, get into an accident, you're going to want that protective jacket. You're going to want those steel tip boots. So security is adding that additional layer to compliance so that you have both. So you're taking the rules and adding that protective layer. So now 50 out of 50 states officially have state personal identifiable information laws. 8 states have privacy laws, with California being the most strict. And there are new AI regulations coming on a state-to-state basis, more and more every single day. So in my world, compliance is the best possible driver to create a security-focused culture. It really helps to protect, your work environment, your people. and make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row and that you're protected, your data, your privacy, everything. So a company without a compliance is basically like a road without traffic lights. There's no lanes, there's no rules, there's a free-for-all for anyone. So a compliance or best practices framework really helps build structure with policies, procedures, rules to protect the organization and your client data, your customer data, and your sensitive data. So compliance can really be broken down into three components. A lot of it is administrative, that operation side. That's what's really overthought or skipped in my world when I walk into a lot of new companies. The policies, the procedures, the actual rules, the actual controls that are in place and being managed, the documentation, like standard operating procedures. Compliance can help your company be significantly more efficient through onboardings and offboardings and checklists. Their security awareness training. Those people are always going to be our biggest threat no matter what we do. And even if you have the best people, it's not always malicious, right? A lot of times it's totally accidental that they click on something. The actual project management that goes behind compliance and implementing new resources, managing all of your assets and documenting your inventory, right? You can't protect what you don't know exists. But you having that proof of compliance and doing ongoing tabletop exercises. So that is incident response, disaster recovery, and business continuity planning. So that's taking disastrous scenarios that could potentially happen to your organization and role playing them. So, every quarter or twice a year, depending on our client needs, we go through a scenario and we pretend like it's real. And, they have to plan for that attack. So whether it's an AI incident or insider threat or a phishing attack, it's different every time. But, planning for doomsday is important. And knowing that you have a plan just in case is really important.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so basic, but I bet you there are very few people on this call who do this, and the people on this call are probably more aware of the need for cybersecurity than most other distributors. But imagine if you came in tomorrow and you couldn't log into your system, what would you do?
Right.
Or you realize that you just had an ACH hijack for a $250,000 invoice, and what do you do? I mean, sometimes you have time to react, but you don't have a lot of time and you need to know what to do. So, this whole notion of role playing these and simulating these disasters, I mean, man, that could make all the difference in whether or not you lose your company.
Yeah. And all I hear is, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I don't have to worry about it. Well,
Yeah.
are you following a compliance framework? No. Do you have a structure on cybersecurity? No. And I mean, even just the medical clients that I worked with, pre-March of 2020, getting them to pandemic plan, they were like, that's never going to happen. We don't have to plan for that. Well,
I knew a quality guy years ago who said that mobile home parks cause tornadoes. And his point was, if you build a mobile home park, a tornado is going to show up, right? Because that's just what happens when you expose yourself to risk. If you do not protect your company, get ready for this to happen, you're just inviting trouble.
Yeah, it's an if, not a when.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Right. But just being proactive and just planning sets you up for so much better success, right? The likelihood of it happening is significantly decreased. And in the event that it does, you'll be able to catch it right away and really reduce the impact. So it's really important. The technical side is what is, typically thought of when you think of cybersecurity and compliance. So that's, having a layer of cybersecurity 2.0, which I'll dive into deeper in a following slide. File encryption, taking things to that next level and protecting your devices, especially around like data loss prevention and monitoring. And then the physical side. So that's, facility access controls, visitor management policies, not just letting people walk around, your distribution centers with willy-nilly and there's no one there to control it or show them around. No visitor badges, letting them have full access to your server rooms and different things. But that also includes like your internet circuits and your remote devices, the Internet of Things, protecting all of your physical assets. So getting up to speed, what does getting compliant actually look like? So, developing those robust security controls and tools and resources is a huge part of that, obviously. But you need the rules to go with it and to define how it's going to be set up. So you need to establish those strong policies, procedures, and record-keeping systems to really verify these compliance measures, right? What are you holding yourselves accountable to? Putting that structure and choosing a compliance or a cybersecurity best practices framework helps you establish the rules. It tells you and guides you, okay, this is what a password's supposed to look like. It's supposed to have 16 characters. It's supposed to have uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, special characters, and recommend passphrases. It should be changed on a routine basis, depending on what you choose. That could be 30, 60, or 90 days and have a specific remembered password history. So you can't use the same password every time it's prompted to change or use that, 2 or 3 times down the road, or try to change your password enough times so that it's the same password again. So a 24 remembered password history is our typical security suggestion standard, but compliance would tell you what's the required minimum. Implement comprehensive and accurate reporting for auditing, logging, scans, etc. So this is actually really important. In that example that I gave of that client, there was 2-factor authentication enabled, and somehow someone turned that off. So proving that you're doing things over time and having these things in place is really important. So you're not just doing it to check a box, you're doing it to make sure that the things that you say that you're doing are being done. And making sure that there is no access to anyone else that doesn't need it. Providing ongoing security awareness training for all personnel. I'll keep saying it, people are our weakest link, and training them is critical routinely. Pretend like they forget every day. Quarterly awareness training is really, really important. Conducting risk assessments on a routine basis. So I'll dive into, what a risk assessment is to me in just a moment. And then performing appropriate vendor management. So your vendors could be your weakest link, just like as a vendor and distributor, you could be your client's weakest link. So it's very, very important to know who's touching your systems, who's touching your network, what they have access to, making sure it's limited as much as possible. And that you have roles and responsibility matrices with your vendors, especially if you're outsourcing things like IT and the like. You want to make sure that your data is safe. Even your maintenance team, making sure that they are protecting your resources adequately, and that who's coming into your building every day and that's not changing every day. Those are really important. So if you ask 25 people, you could get a different definition of a risk assessment 25 different times. So what I define a risk assessment to be really contains these 6 components: a network discovery, an applications discovery, a data flow analysis, vulnerability scanning, policy gap analysis, and a compliance framework. So what does this mean? So I weave AI into every component of this. Everything in my world starts with a risk assessment. Where are you today? What risks do you have? And, the AI usage is evaluated with each single component. So a network discovery is what hardware, software do you have in place today? And what, AI usage is done on your physical network. Applications discovery, what applications are being used by you and your team, cloud-based and on-premise, what AI tools are you using today? A data flow analysis. So my vulnerability scans can tell me where sensitive data lives. but it can't tell me how it got there, why it got there, or how it's used. So this is really important, and we do this through a questionnaire and through interviews. So really probing, how do your team use AI? Why do they use AI? What information do they enter into AI? What are the rules around it? You know, gauging what they understand as their rules. Conducting vulnerability scans, so that's internal, external, active and passive, as well as those PII, personal identifiable information scans. Identifying and reviewing all of the policies and procedures that are in place today that could affect compliance. So the technical ones, yes, but also going back to the administrative, operations, and physical, and making sure that we're evaluating, you know, how you're protecting your business today. And then applying that to a compliance framework and identifying what great things you have in place today, what's a work in progress, and what still needs to be done, and coming up with a real plan of action and milestones to go with that. So you'll hear me, you've heard me already say this a bunch, but I will continue to reiterate that security is built in layers. There is no one pinpoint solution to security. This is where we see a lot of companies getting tripped up. So reviewing the current technical layers, most companies have the basics, right? You have a firewall, you have potential patch management and secure backups, maybe antivirus software or advanced endpoint protection. But really adding a compliance or cybersecurity best practices framework really helps elevate that to what we call Security 2.0. So that's endpoint detection and response, EDR software. So that's, you know, endpoint protection to the extreme. Password policies and management, single sign-ons with two-factor authentication, email and drive encryption, mobile device management, cloud access security, you know, focusing on the people, the process, and the technology. And that's where the compliance comes in. So that's user awareness training, security incident event monitoring, to identify, you know, audit logs and different things so you can know who touches what and when in the event of an incident. Change management, so who changed what and when, that's really important if you ever have to do forensics. Data leak prevention, file and data encryption, continuous vulnerability scans, and policies and procedures. So think of like the Security 2.0 and the compliance as checks and balances, right? So you have your patch management that you're doing. Microsoft releases a patch on Patch Tuesday. You've tested it internally in your systems. You're ready to deploy it. Well, continuous vulnerability scans would tell you if everything was deployed and if any machines are missing that patch or something didn't happen correctly. So think of security in layers, but also as a checks and balances system. They're constantly checking on each other. So this is a list of basic policies and procedures that are used. This one specifically for NIST 800-171, which is the US cybersecurity best practices framework. With CSF, the cybersecurity framework. These are the policies and procedures that we typically use for either of those. ISO 27001, which is the international best practices for cybersecurity, has a few more, and then you'll want a few more, right? You'll want an AI policy just because you know, compliance doesn't say you have to have it. That goes back to weaving AI into everything, right? So we can include it in every single policy, but we also should have a specific AI policy that defines the rules. You might want to do the same for social media, right? We have a media protection, but that's not social media typically. So you'll want to include these things in your policies and procedures, or you'll want to have additional policies and procedures to go with them. And then you'll want to distribute them based on who touches what, right? So you might not need to give an entry-level team member all of these. You might not give somebody that's just like working on the floor of your distribution center access to everything, so they don't need all of these. So but the C-suite should know them all. So you're defining roles and responsibilities, and then creating user groups and only distributing effectively to be really efficient with these. But I always review policies and procedures for a new client. And if policies aren't in place, I find that people just do what they think is best. And sometimes that's not what you want, right? What
Right,
they think is
right.
best is not what you think is best. So it really comes with the administrative side to that technology. And we believe in creating very clean, concise, and easy policies that are no more than 4 to 5 pages, and then have standard operating procedures to go with them. So, you might have like the policy is the rule, the procedures are how you implement the rule. So that's just important to know, because policies have to be redistributed per compliance every time they're updated and changed. So you might want to add something to your checklist or different things. So that's where a standard operating procedure really comes in handy to go with them.
So Alex, I just want to shout out to the crowd. We've only got about 7 minutes left. So if you have questions, interject them now. And then Alex, I know you're going to wrap up here soon.
Yeah, thank you. So protecting the supply chain, nobody wants to have someone in their supply chain be the on-ramp for their cyber breach. So you don't want that as a company, and you don't want that in your distributor supply chain for your customers. You want to make sure you have your ducks in a row, that you need that structure through that compliance or best practices framework. You need that roles and responsibilities matrix of who does what and where, and who's responsible for what. A budget for compliance is not IT. It's a company-wide responsibility that surpasses IT budget allocations typically. So it's a real strategic investment in compliance, yields really long-term organizational benefits. It can really increase efficiency, like I was saying, make streamline onboardings and offboardings. Collaboration and integration are really crucial for effective compliance management. So how do you select a vendor? What to look for in a vendor? So how do you pick your cyber compliance vendor? So I would always look for structure and a process. So my structure and process is 3 steps: assess, address, maintain. So the assessment always starts with a risk assessment. Any vendor that you use needs to identify your risks, needs to understand, where you are today, and come up with a remediations game plan or a plan of action and milestones. The address, what is your plan of execution? You need great project management in order to really achieve effective compliance. You need to organize and document everything: policies, procedures, vendor management, assemble an evidence workbook of sorts. And then ongoing maintenance. So compliance is never one and done. Anyone that tells you that don't look for that, right? There is no start and stop. You always want to be audit ready. You always want to be in maintenance mode and doing annual risk assessments and continuously improving. So if I were to give you a few places to start today, I would start with a role and responsibilities matrix between you and your primary vendors. Especially if you have outsourced IT vendors, that is the best place to start. Document your existing practices. Chances are you're doing a lot correctly today. If you're using AI, how are you using AI? What are the rules around that? Having an information security policy, an acceptable use policy, especially around AI and social media, a BYOD, a bring your own device and teleworking policy, making sure you're distributing security awareness training to all users. If they use a computer in any way, shape, or form, they should have security awareness training.
And does some of that include, actually sending them, phishing messages that are from the good guys to see if they click on them? You guys do that?
I do. Yeah, so that's social engineering testing or phishing testing. So we'll send fake emails out to see who clicks. And then if they fail, they'll automatically get placed into training to educate them. So it is a great way to do things. But as these hackers and attackers become more sophisticated, these emails are just going to look more and more like the real thing. So it's really important, no matter what, to educate and say, look at the email address, look at these emails and where they're coming from, and the content, make sure it looks exactly the same. If you're unsure in any way, shape, or form, ask for a second opinion. Don't just click. So you're teaching your users to just work smarter, not harder. Incident response, business continuity, and disaster recovery planning. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is so critical to every single business out there, especially yours. If you're down, you can't distribute anything. If your technology doesn't work, that is a huge problem. So making sure that you have backup plans that hopefully you'll never have to use. So we do risk assessments, continuous compliance services, and security services. If I can help and answer any questions or help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am always happy to do so.
So let's leave that up for a minute. And this will be available also from us if you want to get a hold of Alex. But so Alex, a couple of things. One, you got to get insurance that actually covers this stuff, because a lot of people may think they have insurance and they don't.
Yeah.
And you need to have some kind of an assessment and plan. You need to do scenario planning. You need to have phishing emails sent across your organization, not just to the customer service people, because it could be your CIO or CEO who clicks on the link, because none of us are invincible when it comes to spotting these things, right? And all of this is getting more urgent and harder to defend against with AI, unless you're using AI tools to help you defend against that, right? You can't be in an asymmetric battle with people who are more sophisticated than you.
Right. And if you're using AI to protect yourself, you should do it in layers. It shouldn't be your only layer.
Right. Got it. Okay. That's fantastic. Okay. So please feel free to reach out, info@choicecybersolutions.com. The phone number is there. If for some reason you lose track of this, let me know and I'll put you in touch with Alex. Alex, if you want to stop sharing, I'm going to tell people about a couple of upcoming programs, if they would not mind holding on for just another minute here, because we've got some great programs coming up. One, on the Wholesale Chain Show, we've got Tim Brooks, who's the CEO and co-owner of Low Miller and Company. That's on April 10th at noon. It'll be a fantastic discussion, sponsored by White Cup and ORS Group, who's a new sponsor for us, who does this amazing software to provide both better service levels and performance of inventory. So you get the double win there. And then on April 25th, we've got a fantastic technology panel, how AI is redefining sales and marketing. We've got representatives from Luminos Labs, Supply Mover, Connexium, and Infor will be discussing the incredible changes that AI is bringing to sales and marketing. And so with that, Alex, thank you so much. It was great working with you today. And appreciate everyone attending, and we'll see you on the next distribution strategy program. Goodbye now.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.